was catatonic afterwards. These are pictures taken in the hospital of him afterwards. You can see. How strong are these shocks?
It's recorded. It's 30 milliamps is what they say. Stun guns that are sold are 3 to 4 milliamps.
The student can have multiple shocks in a day. 4 times out of a seat to get up to give you a hug, and you have to shock them 4 times for that. If there's 20 shocks, they have to call the monitoring. The monitoring alerts, says go ahead, go to 30, and at 30 you stop.
Shocking 31 times in 7 hours. Landed this child in the hospital, catatonic, for 5 straight weeks. That's not treatment, that's torture, Anderson.
Welcome to Gears of Equality, and today we will be discussing a place that is known in infamy among autistic advocates. A place that even the United Nations has called torture. It is known as the infamous school of shock, and it is one of the main things that autism advocates are still fighting to close to this day. It is simply known as the Judge Rotenburg Center, or the JRC. In order to truly understand why so many people have issues with the Judge Rotenburg Center, it's important we understand the history of it. And the best place to start is with the founder himself. Dr. Mathew Israel was a student at Harvard who graduated in 1960 and opened up his first center, the Behavioral Research Institute, as it was known at the time, in 1971. He studied under the laws of B.F. Skinner. However, unlike Skinner, who believed that positive reinforcement was superior to negative reinforcement, Mathew Israel believed the opposite.
Clear that just seeing the box, just seeing it, caused her great distress. There's a psychological cost, isn't there?
A very beneficial cost. I mean, yes, it is something that may generate some anxiety.
Well, you did see Rachel's reaction, though, when the supervisor just took the device out to show it.
It was good that she had that reaction. It shows it's effective.
Believing that aversives, punishments, were the superior method in order to help treat people to no longer do negative behaviors. The center was said to be a place that had no denial rate, that would accept any person regardless of how severe their condition was. It was originally host of many students on the autism spectrum who were unable to communicate and were nonverbal, and often would have self-harming tendencies. These were students who were often seen as on the quote-unquote lower functioning side of the spectrum. And Matt Israel claimed that with his methods, he could help quote-unquote cure them. Though, as we will soon find out, the word cure may not be the most accurate considering the amount of damage he has caused. In 1990, after the creators of the SIBIS refused to make a more powerful model of their electric device, Mathew Israel decided to create his own called the Graduate Electronic Decelerator, or GED. He originally got the GED approved in 1994 from the FDA, however afterwards continued to modify it, making the current GEDs technically illegal. They have reported to constantly malfunction, causing people to be shocked for minor reasons. There have many that have reported to have first, second, and third degree burns. There has been brain damage along with depression as side effects of the GED. The GED-1 uses 15 milliamps, which is 5 times more milliamps than what a cop taser uses, and the GED-4 uses 45 milliamps, which is 15 times more than the average cop taser uses. While nowadays the Judge Rotenburg Center is infamous for their use of electric shocks for the GED, they have used a variety of different methods over the years. One of the methods they used before the invention of the GED was forcing patients to inhale ammonia by placing it on a rag that would allow them to place it under their nose and force them to smell it. Another method they would use is beat patients with a spatula or many other household objects, or just beat them bludgeoningly anyways. They would also pinch the bottom of their feet, force them to ingest hot peppers, spray bad water in their face, and they would also force them to wear what's called a white noise helmet, a giant helmet that would be placed on the patient's head that would release large amounts of static, causing severe pain. They would also use restraints like handcuffs which are still in use to this day by the Judge Rotenburg Center as a form of restraining the patients, treating them more like prisoners than autistic or emotionally disturbed. Perhaps the most infamous case of the Judge Rotenburg Center took place in 2005 when they took a teenager by the name of Andre McCollins who refused to take off his jacket. They restrained him on a restraint board for 7 hours and shocked him a total of 31 times. The shocks resulted in permanent brain damage and him suffering from extreme paranoia. Andre McCollins' mother, Cheryl, claimed that they never informed her of the type of treatments that they used at the Judge Rotenburg Center and that she was unaware that they quote-unquote torture students. This goes against the rules where they are supposed to inform the parents and the courtrooms about certain patients getting certain treatments. The Judge Rotenburg Center tried to bar any footage from the Andre McCollins punishment being shown to the public. However, in the 2012 court case, they were finally forced to reveal the footage that shocked the country.
Help me! Help! 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 Help me! Help! Help! Help!
That is Andre McCollins, a former student being shocked in 2002. The video is evidence in a lawsuit his family recently settled. Now, Andre, who's autistic, received 31 shocks over 7 hours on that particular day. You see him there, he was strapped down.
Probably one of the most famous cases when it comes to Judge Rotenburg Center happened in 2012 when they were taken to court over what they've done to a patient by the name of Andre McCollins, an 18-year-old who was strapped to the ground for 7 hours and shocked 31 times simply because he refused to take off his jacket. This particular incident inspired many advocates to begin speaking more against the Judge Rotenburg Center, and even had the United Nations beginning to analyze the methods used there. The United Nations themselves called it as a form of torture. 2 years later, the FDA began talking about banning the shock device, and they still haven't followed through. When the United Nations even sees this as a form of torture, and we would refuse to use this on terrorists or prisoners, it makes you wonder, how can we possibly excuse or allow the fact of it being used on autistics? In 1981, at the California district of Matt Israel's program, a 14-year-old autistic by the name of Danny Aswad was strapped face down in his bed as a form of punishment. He suffocated to death, resulting in the first of 7 deaths caused from Matt Israel and his treatments. Because of his death, the California Social Service Department filed a massive complaint and investigation into the California branch of Matt Israel Center. They discovered that Mathew Israel did not have a California license and therefore is not legally allowed to have a center in California at the time. As a result, the California branch was no longer allowed to practice physical punishments. However, the main branch in Massachusetts is still allowed to practice physical punishments to this day. The branch in California still remains open under the new name of Tobin World and is owned by Mathew Israel's wife, Judy Weber. In 1985, at the Behavioral Research Institute, now known as the Judge Rotenburg Center, a 22-year-old autistic by the name of Vincent Milltech was forced to the ground in between the staff member's legs, handcuffs, and was forced to wear a white noise helmet on his head. The helmet released a loud static-like noise which caused Vincent Milltech to have a seizure and die. Along with finding out about Vincent Milltech's death, they also found out about the BRI starving many of their patients. Whenever they took the BRI to court, the judge by the name of Judge Ernest Rotenberg ruled that the treatments may still be allowed to continue at the BRI. He was then placed in charge of approving all the other treatments for specific patients at the BRI afterwards. In 1994, Mathew Israel decided to honor this and name the center after him and rechange the name of BRI to the JRC, or Judge Rotenburg Center. Many advocates see the name change as a reminder of how the legal justice system is still allowing these types of methods to continue and this type of abuse to be allowed on autistics even to this day. Of the 7 recorded deaths that were caused by the Judge Rotenburg Center, there are 3 that are not really well known about: Robert Cooper, Abigail Gibson, and Silvera Gonzalez. However, even though these 3 are not known much about, they should not be forgotten, for they were still living human beings with families and lives and interests that were unfortunately taken away by our dissenter. These 7 people that have died have faced the ultimate form of punishment that the Judge Rotenburg Center can give them, taking away their last ounce of freedom, their freedom to live. May they all find the peace and mercy and death that they deserved in life. Even after all the issues that the JRC has caused, we are still waiting. The autistic community has still been waiting, the mentally handicapped community has still been waiting, and most of all, the patients of the JRC are still waiting. The wait should be over. It's time that we work in order to help make the closing of the JRC a reality by speaking up and having our government do something about it. One of the ways you can do that is by spreading the message through hashtags. Hashtags you can use are hashtag StopTheShock, hashtag We're Still Waiting, and hashtag Shutdown Rotenburg. If you want more information, go check out slide 22 of the We Have a Voice presentation. There you will find the email address along with the phone number of the FDA, which you can use to help contact them more directly, and you will find a link to the website of the ASAN, which gives more flyers and details about the Judge Rotenburg Center you may use for yourself. What's important is that we spread the message to everyone. The more people that know, the more people speak up, the more we have a chance to finally end this long reign of torture.